Hi, I'm Elijah. People tend to think I'm smart with money, when in reality, I have to show them this, and this, and even this. It's fake money, of course. I'm not stupid enough to use real money. You know that one impulse buy you regret? This is number 7. The PlayStation Classic, PlayStation's mini-console attempt that everybody dogged on for being bad compared to Nintendo, and they're right. Kind of. So now you have to wonder, how did something so bad to the general public become so bad? The NES Classic Edition released back in 2016 when Nintendo at the time was making... With Nintendo biding time until the Nintendo Switch launches, they needed some way to bring back fans and make new fans. So they dusted off the NES, gave it size reduction surgery, and added 20 great games. With an asterisk. While the whole mini-console thing kinda started with the Atari back in like the early 2000s, Nintendo basically standardized mini-consoles that it needed quality, in which they did it again with the Super Nintendo, and never again. PlayStation, among with other gaming companies, saw this and wanted a piece of that mini-console pie. Thus in 2018, Sony released the PlayStation Classic, and to this day, I feel nothing. So first off, why? Why did this thing retail for $100? Most mini consoles at the time had a price around $60 and $80, and Sony really sat there and said, gimme. The SNES Classic was $80 when it came out, which released around the same time. I get that PlayStation was fairly more 32-bit and 3D polygons, but really? What constitutes this for being more expensive than it is? Probably when it came to designing this thing. The box itself, this thing looks like it was ripped from the shelves from the 90s and was shrinked. But then you open it and you get the classic system itself. Damn! Even the controllers being USB, they have these things on the end of it that looks like if you plug it in, it looks like it's plugged into an actual PlayStation. They didn't have to do it, but they did. Maybe booting this thing up will probably save it in some way. Okay, well, when you boot the thing up, you have the original PS1 boot sound, and then this. Wow, all the 7 deadly sins in a row, I think that's a record! The menu is a bit lackluster compared to other mini consoles, and I know it's based off the original PlayStation menu when you don't have a game in, but also no music? They could have had some leitmotif or something, or maybe something from like the old demo disc that they have. I mean, compare this to any other mini console, once you turn it on, it immediately hits you with what it has to offer. Its game selection, the menu, letting you change it depending on its alphabetically, release date, or even see the spines. Mostly on the Genesis one. Not to mention it also adds borders in your life, also filters, allowing you to stretch the game if you're a f***ing creep, or keep it 4x3 like God intended. But here with the PlayStation Classic, do I have a clip that's indicative to this? Thank you, past me. Also, where are the manuals? The NES, SNES, and Genesis Classic have these QR codes that actually feature the manuals to the games presented, in which you really don't need, but hey, it's a cool incentive. But with this thing, they don't even have a QR code, and I went on Google to see if it was actually real, if they had any. They did, and it is the most blandest, uninspired version of the manuals I have ever seen. Now I'm not gonna pretend that I actually care about the manuals, but I am gonna pretend to be a bitch about it. Why give these games the most unimaginative manuals I have ever seen? I get that they want to make it uniform and, you know, clean, but in life, there's uniformity, and then there's being a dick. They could have done the same thing as Nintendo, where they had the original manuals as well as the new electronic manuals. But in the end, what do you prefer? A coloring booklet or a page of terms and conditions? And that's pretty much it. It's essentially what the PlayStation Classic can do. Not really much. All just left is to run the games. You get 20 preloaded games with this thing. We got Ballerina Toshinden, Cool Birders 2, Destruction Derby, Final Fantasy VII, Grand Theft Auto, Intelligent Cube, Jumping Flash, Metal Gear Solid, Mr. Driller, Oddworld Abe's Odyssey, Ridge Racer Type 4, Rayman, Resident Evil, Revelations Persona, Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo, Siphon Filter, Tekken 3, Tom Clancy Rainbow Six, Twisted Metal, and Wild Arms. Now, to be fair, there are some good games in here, there are some classics in here, there are just some games in here, there are some odd games in here, and then there's Rayman. But looking at the list, it really isn't scratching the surface of PlayStation. In which I mean scratch, I mean dragging their fingertips. Many games have been omitted from the lineup, which kind of make people go, oh yeah, PlayStation. No Crash Bandicoot, no Spyro, no Tomb Raider, not even Parappa the Rapper or Gran Turismo, which they own Gran Turismo, so I don't understand why that's not in there. Also, the licensing don't even make sense either. Like, they have Konami, which has Metal Gear Solid, but no Symphony of the Night or Silent Hill. Namco has Ridge Racer, Mr. Driller, and Tekken 3, but no Pac-Man World, Klonoa, or the other Tekken games. Capcom with Resident Evil and Super Puzzle Fighter, but no Mega Man game, Street Fighter Alpha, or hell, the other Resident Evil games? Though I think this is more of a testament to show that a whole PlayStation Classic is pretty much more difficult due to PlayStation being a jack-of-all-trades console. This is kind of the thing where it differs from like a Nintendo or a Sega mini console. Mostly Nintendo. See, what I mean is, it's pretty much easier for them to pick games for a Nintendo Mini or a best of Nintendo compilation because everybody that buys a Nintendo console plays the same thing. I mean, let's be honest, we've all had a Nintendo console and played a Mario game once in our life. PlayStation, I mean, sure, some people played Final Fantasy VII, but others probably played Wipeout or something. But that's the least of the problem with the PlayStation Classic, as many people have quoted that the emulation is trash. Many have cited that the pictures on TVs look muddy and really crisp. Like, to be fair, what I've seen here is that they've actually tried using a bilinear filter on this thing, and they try to make it look like how it does back in like an old CRT, and it doesn't even work. But really, I don't have much of a problem with that. Also, people have stated that the device also puts out at 720p, which that's not a problem with me. I mean, I don't need 4K on something like that, but again, it's $100. Like, you can at least put in some effort for that. But no, we get low-res gameplay and European ROMs. Finally, I get to be a nerd about this. If you didn't know, before the early 2000s, many games that would also release in North America also released in Europe. However, in Europe, their TVs ran at 50 Hz compared to North America's NTSC at 60 Hz, which meant that some European copies of the games were slowed down to comply with the 50 Hz TVs, which, at first glance, it looks fine, manageable at even. But when you actually look at how the game is supposed to run, you can see how choppy the game looks on the European release or PAL games. And for whatever reason, the PlayStation Classic mixed both NTSC and PAL games into one thing. Why? I don't know. Maybe the PAL games have multilingual options, or that they featured something that's not present in the NTSC version, or the different licensing for the games in the region. Or maybe the emulator that they're using really isn't the best for PS1 emulation, so they used the PAL games and added auto frame skip to make it seem like it's running smooth. I mean, it's just a hunch. This also doesn't help well because back then you saw people actually discover that there was a hidden menu when you use a specific keyboard to change the region for the game, which technically speeds up the game to 60 frames a second. No, it's fine, like the controllers, which are good replications of the original controllers. Only downside is they're a replication of the original controllers. Yeah, so why no DualShock? I mean, I know it's supposed to replicate the original feeling controllers, but in a game like Metal Gear Solid, which uses both the original and DualShock controllers, the DualShock controllers are the way to play the game because it is a much different experience when you actually use the DualShocks. Also, the PlayStation Classic doesn't come with an AC adapter. But beside all of those flaws, are there any other positives beside the build quality? I mean, kinda. Well, I mean, when I first bought the thing, it was selling on eBay for about $30 or so, and I said, hell yeah, I'll pay for that. Even back then, I kinda knew the stigma around it, but I didn't even seem to care. I kinda just wanted to get more into gaming at that point. And I kinda had a blast with this thing. Metal Gear Solid and Resident Evil became my two favorite games of all time. Tekken 3, I still don't get, but damn is it still fun. I just went back to Final Fantasy VII, and I'm having a little fun in Rayman. It's Rayman. So in actuality, this thing is more of like a at-game Sega Genesis, but premium, and it doesn't have Sonic. But luckily, you could also hack this thing and play all the PlayStation games that you want, and also enabling DualShock controllers, which making this PlayStation feel more PlayStation. But then there comes the philosophical question. If you're buying it to play games, why buy it? The PlayStation Classic isn't bad, but it's not good. It just feels half-baked. It's like if PlayStation wanted this thing to be the best thing it ever could and had a whole bunch of ideas planned for it, but they really started this thing late and Christmas of 2018 was just around the corner and just threw whatever they had and just called it a day. So in the end, does it matter what's on the thing if you're gonna hack it just to put the games you want to play on it? Or the people who bought it just to collect it and put it on their shelves, but they have other ways to play PS1 games? Why does the set list matter? So if the UI stinks or it uses PAL games or the resolution is muddy and there's no DualShocks, again, I don't know. People just like complaining about things, and this thing is just easy to dogpile on for the fact of, oh yeah, PlayStation. Who the f*** is Mr. Driller? But then again, it's up for you to decide on what you buy and what you do with it. I mean, for example, I did buy a Wii U last year. It's not for the reason that you think. See, it's useful for me to know if there's dust in the house because dust will get on it.